evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 2 Craig Crossan. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal Joseph Reid Gregory, whose story will be told shortly. We are honoured to acknowledge Minister Mick Gentleman, Minister for Police and Emergency Services, and Mr David Price, Deputy Director General, Justice and Community Safety Directorate, ACT Government. We are also pleased to acknowledge senior officers from the ACT Emergency Services Agency, members of the ACT Rural Fire Service, ACT State Emergency Services, ACT Fire and Rescue, and ACT Ambulance Service. The ACT Emergency Services Agencies comprises over 1,500 full-time and volunteer personnel. Their duties include providing emergency management to the ACT and surrounding southeast New South Wales region. We sincerely thank them for their efforts in ensuring the safety of our community. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL and Services Club Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bain, Australia's First World War official historian. Bain landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bain's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bain's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal Joseph Reid Gregory. Joseph Gregory was born on the 6th of September 1894, the third son born to Rebecca and John Gregory from the Nass Valley, South Canberra and the Brindabella Ranges. The Gregory family were related to other prominent pioneering families in the district, including the Reids. Joseph attended Nass Public School before going to work as a labourer and a sheep farmer. In March 1916, not long after he had turned 21, Joseph Gregory travelled to Goulburn in order to enlist in the Australian Imperial Forces. After initial training on the 25th of October 1916, he left Sydney aboard the troop ship Ascanius, bound for overseas service. First, arriving in England, Private Gregory undertook a period of training on the Salisbury Plain. In January the following year, he reported to hospital with bronchitis, but the following month he had recovered sufficiently to return to service. Initially allotted to the reinforcements of the 55th Battalion, Gregory was transferred to the 18th Battalion, landing in France on the 25th of March. After suffering from a bout of trench fever, Gregory was back with his battalion as it took part in its first major battle at Pozieres, between the 25th of July and the 5th of August. After returning to the Pozieres trenches for a second time in late August, the battalion was withdrawn to Belgium to recover. In late September, he was promoted to Lance Corporal before the battalion returned to the Somme in October. On the 10th of October 1917, Lance Corporal Gregory was wounded in action, suffering from a gas attack. After being evacuated to England and recovering at Norfolk Hospital in February the following year, he had a period of furlough before being detached for light duties. In April, he was in hospital with diphtheria and some heart problems, but recovered over the following months. By June, Gregory was well enough to be found guilty for absent without leave, and in July he rejoined his force in France. By then, the German Spring Offensive was underway, and Australian units, including the 18th Battalion, were thrown into the line to help blunt the attack around Villers-Bretonneux, which lay before a strategically important rail hub at Bain. With the last desperate German assault turned back, the Allied army turned its offensive and the 18th participated in the battles that pushed the German army closer to defeat. On the 8th of August, the first day of the Battle of Amiens, Allied forces advanced over 11 kilometres, one of the greatest advances of the war. The morale of the German troops had sunk to a point where large groups began to capitulate, leading to a German general to refer to it as a black day for the German army. With the introduction of mobile armour warfare marking the end of trench warfare on the Western Front, the end of the war was finally in sight. On the 11th of August, Lance Corporal Gregory was with a group of stretcher bearers near the village of Arbonnières when a shell exploded about 120 metres away from him. A stray piece of shell struck him in the neck and he died almost instantly. Private Reynolds, who had left Australia with Gregory and come to France with him, was near him when he was killed and helped move Gregory's body to a military cemetery in Wafasi, where he was buried. A cross was put over his grave by the stretcher bearers of Alpha Company. Another of Gregory's mates, Private Neligan, wrote to Gregory's sister about the shock its death had caused him. "We were always together," he wrote. "I was dumbfounded at the time to think that we were through the thick of it for 4 days, and he was killed just when things were quietening down." After the war, his body was reburied at Villers-Bretonneux Military Cemetery. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, amongst more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal Joseph Reid Gregory, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and for the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, or the years condemn. At the going down and the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bain. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.